In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a landing page for a membership website for photographers. Let me show you what this looks like. So over here, this is our website. So when I scroll down here, you can see we have a beautiful hero area here. We also have a section here which has an image right here in the background. I've also used this image as a design element. And then as I scroll down here, we can see that we have a beautiful section here. And these colors here are colors which I use from my color palette. And then scrolling down here, we also have an email opt-in section. And then over here, we have a beautiful footer, which also incorporates your logo and also the colors of this design. And then if I scroll back over here to the top, notice what happens to the header. If I scroll down, it shrinks in size. And then when I scroll up, it expands. Now, this header and footer comes from a template which I put together called the Genesis template. You can actually buy this template in the link which I'll provide in the video description below. It's only $7. And also, if you're brand new to web design, I also include a link to sign up for my free WordPress course. And lastly, if you haven't bought Divi yet, because Divi is what I'll be using for the design of this website, I will leave a link in the video description below. If you buy Divi using my affiliate link, I will give you access to my Divi Blueprint course, which teaches you everything that you need to know about building websites using Divi. All right, let's get started. So we are over here in our admin dashboard. So the very first thing we need to do, if you haven't done so, is to create a home page. So doing that is quite straightforward. You just come over here to the top, hover over where it says new, click on page, and then just name the page home. Now I've already gone ahead and created my page. So I'm going to come over here, click on all pages, and then I'm going to go to my home page. Now, it's important that you create your landing page on your home page because that's the page that you want people to see when they come on your membership website. All right, so I'm going to go ahead now and click on Edit with the Divi Builder, build from scratch. And then next, over here, I need to create a new full width header. So I'm going to click here on this plus button, click on full width, select full width header. And now I just need to go in and customize this. So our title here needs to be something quite attractive, like become an awesome photographer in no time. That headline is very attractive. When people land on the page, they know exactly what this website is about. And then over here on the button, you want to say, you want to give this a call to action, something like maybe become a member. Like that. And then this text here, of course, we're not going to spend too much time trying to work out what this text is going to be. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use some lorem text. I'm going to copy this from lorem2.com. And then over here on the content, I'm just going to paste it here like that. Great. So now that we have all our text, the next stage now is to come over here to design, go to layout. And I prefer having everything here on the left, but the next important stage here is to just make sure our text has the right font. So I'm going to come over here now to, in fact, I'll hover over here and target the main heading. So over here on the fonts, to be honest, I've been using a lot of pop-ins, so I'm just going to use something different. I'm going to go with Montserrat. Right, so that's going to be my font here. And then I'm also going to adjust the size and let's use, let's say 2 VW, see how that looks. Okay, let's make it bigger. So let's go with 3 VW. Now, what I also like to do here is to make sure everything looks great on all devices. So I'm going to click here on this little icon here, go to my tablet view, and I can see here on the tablet, I just need to increase this a little bit. Yeah, maybe 5. And then over here on the phone, increase this a little bit, maybe even 7. All right, so that looks great. I can always go back in and make some further adjustments. And over here now, back on the desktop, I also want to give this a line height. So I'm just going to increase this a little bit, maybe go with, let's say 1.2. Let's take a look here. So that looks okay as well. Great. So in fact, let's bring this down a little bit, 1.1. Okay, right, great. So now that we have our header in place, the next stage is to also customize our description text here. So I'm going to come over here, click on this brush tool, and then I'm also going to change this to Montserrat. Great. Now here, I'm not too bothered here about the size. I'm just going to leave it as it is. All right, so the next stage now is to pretty much add an image here that goes in the background. So before I can actually add the image, I want to make sure I come over here to layout, make this full screen because I really want this to take over the page. Now, as you can see, we have a bit of a problem here because everything is spanning the whole width of the page. So we need to adjust that by coming over here to sizing. So we're just going to reduce the width here to about, let's say, maybe 56%. But you'll notice that if I go over here to my tablet view, it leaves a big gap over here, right? So we may want to adjust that like that, maybe bring it down to about 80%. Same thing with the phone, maybe 86, okay? So that looks much better now. Back on our desktop. Now this text here, the heading, you may want to make it bold. In fact, let's change this. Okay, let's go with semi-bold. All right, great. I think that looks much better. Right, so the next stage now is to add my image here in the background. So I'm going to come back over here to my content, click on a background. And first of all, I'm just going to delete this color here because I don't need that. And then I'm going to add my background image. So the image I'm going to use is this image right here. And it's also very important that the image that you use on your photography membership website is an image that portrays what the website is about. So now that I have my image in here, we can see here that our text is pretty much fighting with the background. We can't read this clearly. So what we could do here is we could add a gradient. So let's do that. I'm going to click on this plus button here, add our first color, and then I'm just going to make sure this is transparent. And then over here on the bottom, I'm going to place the gradient above the image. And you can notice what happens here is right away, we have our gradient. Now what we need to do is to adjust the angle. So I'm just going to bring this over here to about, say, 94 degrees. I think that works fine. And straight away, you can see that this is working fine. So the next stage is to add my color here because this is not the color that works with our design. So I'm just going to paste my color in here. And I think I'm good with this one. Maybe make it slightly darker, just like that. Okay, great. Now, the other thing that you may also want to do here is to adjust the start and end position. So I can just drag this a little bit to about, let's say, 15%. So now we can read this, nice and easy. And also here, our main photographer also is in view. Great. So the next stage now is to work on our button. So I'm going to click here, and this is going to take us to custom styles for button 1. So I'm going to activate that. So here, the first thing we need to do is to add our color for our button. So I'm going to click on this eyedropper tool and I'm going to paste my color in here. In fact, that's not the color I need to use. The color here is going to be, okay, let's go with white for now. But we also need to add a background color. So this is where I need to add this color right here for my background. I'm going to get rid of my border color here. And I need to change the design of this as well. So you know what? I'm going to increase my border radius, and that's the style of the button that I like or that I prefer. And then I am going to add an icon. So let's look for an icon that goes with our design here. So basically, I'm looking for a camera in these icons. Here we go. Here's my camera. And what I also may need to do is just to make sure. So notice that when I hover over here, my icon here shows, and that's pretty cool. Right, so the next thing I need to do here is to change my font here to basically match what I have here on the website. So I'm going to scroll down here, look for my font, and it's going to be Montserrat. Let's make it all caps. And let's make it semi-bold. And in fact, the size needs to also be a bit smaller. Maybe 14 will do. Let's change this to semi-bold. All right, so now that we have our button in place, I'm just going to save. Now let's move on to our next section. So I'm going to first start by deleting this because we don't need this top one here. So I'm going to scroll down here, click on this plus button. And then I am going to add a regular section, and I'm going to click here on these 3 columns. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a few modules, and the module I'm going to add here is a blurb. Right, so now I can just go in and start customizing this. So I'm going to come over here to image and icon, use an icon. So let's start by just highlighting what we're going to have here in our membership. So over here on the design, image and icon, I'm going to change my color, and I'm going to go with this color here. Save this. So before I can continue, I would like to add a color to this background section here, because I want to do something different. I don't want to just, design with just white backgrounds. I want to do something different for this design. So I'm going to go ahead now and add my color here in the background. Coming over here, click on this plus button, and I'm going to add my background color like that. Save it. And now I'm going to start working on my blurb. So I'm going to click here on my module settings. So I'm going to give this a background color. So the color I'm going to go with here is going to be, okay, so we're going to try some variations of colors. So we're going to try this one here, see how that looks. And to be honest, I think if I work with this could actually turn out to be a good option. All right, so now let's further design this. I'm going to come over here to spacing, because we need to give this a bit of breathing space. So we're going to come over here to padding, and let's start by 30. Okay, let's do it for the left and right side. Okay, so that's not a bad start. Next, I'm going to come over here to my text, and we're also going to customize this text. So I'm going to add my color here by clicking on the eyedropper tool. Okay, I really like how it's coming out there. So the text color here is fine. I'm going to go with the color here for the description text here. Again, I'm going to click on the eyedropper tool, paste my color, and now this is really coming to shape. So I really like what's going on here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to pretty much save this, and then I'm just going to see if there's anything else I may want to do here. So perhaps maybe I can add a bit of rounded corners here. So let's go in and do that. So I'm going to come over here, click on design, borders, add some rounded corners, maybe about 5 or even 6 pixels. All right, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to save it, and then I'm just going to duplicate this a few times, drag this into position like that. And then I'm just going to go in, change the icons for my content for this area here. So I'm going to come over here, image and icon, choose this one here, come on to this one, image and icon. And for that one, I'm going to go with, let's go with this one here. Great. So now we have our content here for this area. Now you may have noticed one thing: the font that we used here is not the same as the font that we have here. So let's go ahead and address that. So I'm going to click here and then click on design. Then I'm going to start here with the title. Change this to Montserrat. Let's make it bold. Do the same here on the description text. And for the size, we're just going to make it slightly bigger here. Okay, so I think that looks great. I'm going to save this. Now, what I can do is I can actually copy my styles and paste them over here. Okay, so now I've gone in, I've pasted my module styles, but you know what? Just looking at this text here is way too big. Let's go back in and adjust this. So I'm going to go back. Now, let me show you one quick tip. So what we could actually do here, we could do multi-select. So I'm going to hold down my command key and select the 3 modules. And then I'm going to come over here, click on design. And then I'm just going to go in and adjust my text. So we don't want light here. We want this regular. Okay, that's much better. And then over here, let's set this to 0.9. And then we also need to adjust the line height. It's a bit too much. Okay, let's go with 1.6. Great. So our section now is looking much better. Let's move on to the next stage. So I'm going to come over here, click on this plus button, regular. And this time we're going to add some images here. So I'm going to go with 50/50. So on the left here, we're going to have a text module. So here is just going to be some description text of what I need here on this side. And then over here, we're going to have an image. So let's work on that. So here I'm going to add a heading. So I'm going to come over here to Lorem 2, choose my heading. I'll highlight this and make this heading 1. Great. So this text here, again, this can be some lorem text. So I'm just going to copy a bunch of text here and just replace it here. Great. So now we have a description text. We have our heading. Let's save this for now. And then over here now on our row settings, we're going to come over here to the column. And this is the second column, by the way. Click here on background, and we need to add a background image over here. So I'm going to click here on the third tab, click on this plus button here to add a background image. So the image I'm going to add is going to be, let's go with this one right here. Looks very interesting. There we go. So I'm going to save that, save this one more time. So what we need to do here is we want this image to pretty much take over this area here. So we're going to do a bit of tweaking here, and it's going to take us a bit of time. So you just have to bear with me. All right. So let's start by going back into our section settings. Our row settings, design, sizing. And the very first thing we need to do is to remove the gutter width, because this is the space between the columns. Go ahead and do that. Set this to 1. Our width needs to be 100%. Maximum width, 100%. Okay, great. So now our image is edge to edge. Come back over here to our content. Now we're going to go to the first column. And in here, we're going to go to design, spacing. So we're going to add some padding just to make sure that everything is in place. So I'm going to start here with 2VW. Okay. I'm also going to do this to the left and the right. So we may want to increase this on the left and the right. Okay. So at this moment, we're just testing to see if this is going to work okay. So let's save this. Right, so not too bad so far. Next, I'm going to come over here now to my section settings. Click on design, spacing. And this time, we want to remove the margins and the padding. So I'm going to click here on 0. Both the top and the bottom, and the padding as well. Save that. Now we're going to go to our row settings. Do the same. Click here on design, spacing, no margins on the top, no margins, no padding, both the top and the bottom. Great. So now you can see our image here is pretty much filling up the whole space. All right. So I'm going to click on this plus button here and add a divider. I'm going to select this. So what you need to do here on the divider is to click on visibility. We don't need to show this divider, so we're going to say no to that. Come over here to design, sizing, and we can adjust the height of our divider here using this height. Okay, so now you can see we are revealing more of this image by just, dragging this up to about, let's say, 402. Great. Now, when we take a look here at our design, we can see that we still have a lot of work to do here on the top, because this text is way up there in the top. So we can go in and tweak this furthermore. So I'm going to click here on my settings. And this is the first column we need to work with. design, spacing. So now I'm just going to add, and I'm also going to add. Okay, so I think this looks okay. So let's take a look at this in our different views. So I'm going to come over here, click on this little icon, tablet. So on the tablets, when I look at this, this looks okay, but I may want to increase a little bit just to give this some breathing space. Okay, that looks much better. And then on the phone, looks perfect. Right, so back over here on the tablet, I may want to increase this because we need some breathing space. Okay, let's go with 20 VW. All right, so on the phone here, it looks great. And then on the tablet, it looks great too. Now we can see more of this image. Okay, let's go ahead and save. All right, so that section now is looking really, really good. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to pretty much add my colors here because I don't think I want to go with this white. Okay, so the color I'm going to use is pretty much the color that I have here on my palette. So I'm going to click here on my row, settings, first column, click on background, and then I'm just going to choose my recent colors that I've used here. Right, will that work? Right, so I have to decide which one to use. So I think I'm just going to go with this one here. Okay. All right, so I guess I'm going to go with that. So the next stage is to now work on the colors of this text right here. So I'm going to save this one more time. And now I'm going to go into my text module. Click on design, and then I'm just going to go to my heading text here. Click on the eyedropper tool, paste my color, and I'm going to use the same color for the paragraph text as well. All right, so that's going to be our section right there. But you know what? We're not done yet because there's still quite a bit that we need to do here. So back over here to this section. So first of all, I want to add an image here in the background. So I'm going to click on this gear icon, background, and then I'm just going to come to my third tab, click on add background image. And the image I'm going to go with is, let's go with this one here. But of course we can change it depending on how it's going to look. Right, so now that we have this image in the background, I also want to add some padding to this. So I'm just going to grab the slider here, apply the same size, both at the top and the bottom, same padding. I'm just going to drag this. So now I can see more of this image. But you know what? This image here is showing more of what's happening here in the background, and it doesn't look nice. Let's go back over here. Click on background. So I'm going to change my image here to maybe, let's go with something more interesting. So I'm going to go with this one here. Okay, there we go. All right, so there's a few things that we can do here with this image. So what I'm going to do is to come over here and add a color. So the color I'm going to go with is a color that I've used before. So I'm going to click here on recent. I'll go with this one here. All right, so now I can come back over here on the image tab, and let's add a blend mode. So this is where I really like to play around with the modes here, the blending modes, to see what sort of design we can come up with. So we can see here that the color that I've chosen here is pretty much too much. So let's choose a different color. All right, so the color I'm going to use, come back over here. Okay, so I think this color is better. So what you can do now is you can play around with the slider and reveal some of the content that you may want to reveal about the image here. So you can see here, we can see someone here. There's this man in the background, And what you could also do is, let's save this and let's add a bit of margin to the top here so we can have an idea of what is happening here. So as you can see, as a design element, we've just added an image here in the background, and it really goes with the design that we have here for our landing page. And while we're here, I'm looking here at the top, I may want to come over here and change this button here because I don't really like it, to be honest. I may have a rectangle button instead. All right, so while we're here, I just want to go in and make sure that this is looking great on all devices. So over here, I can see that the padding here is way too much on this view. So let's go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to come over here to my section settings, click here on design, spacing. Right, so I'm going to click here on this little icon, go to my tablet view. And on my tablet now, I'm just going to reduce this all the way down. Let's go with 16. And then on the phone seems okay. Now, while I'm here, I've just noticed that this text doesn't look great on mobile devices. So let's go ahead and fix that before we continue. In fact, you know what? Let's just make sure everything's looking okay. So this looks fine. This looks great. Excellent. All right, so now we need to just go into these blurbs and fix the sizes. So now I'm going to go back over here to, in fact, let's save this. Go back to our front view. And then I'm just going to hold down the command key and then just select all three of them. Go into the settings, design, and then I'm going to choose this paragraph text. And then let's go in and sort this out. So on the tablet, let's increase the size. All right, 1.8. I think that looks great. On the phone, let's increase this a little bit. Right, I'm happy with 2.4. So I think this looks great. So as you can see now, our page is beginning to really take shape. All right, great. So I'm going to save this. Now we also need to add another section here. And this section is for if anyone wants to sign up for an email newsletter, this is where they're going to do this. And this is going to be towards the bottom of the page. So I'm going to click on this plus button here. And then I'm going to add regular, and we are going to go with a single column. And then I'm going to choose email opt-in. So let's say someone comes on the landing page, they don't really want to become a member. They can scroll all the way down and sign up onto your newsletter. Okay, so let's work on this now. So the first thing I normally do when I come over here is to click here on design, layout, and then I just pretty much change this and have everything on the top like that. Right, so now I don't need the first name, I don't need the last name. So I need to go here into the fields. In fact, before I go into the fields, let's go over here to the content. And this is where we get to disable the first name and the last name. So all we have is email and this subscribe button. Great. So over here now, let's work on this text. So this is where you want to add the reason why they may want to subscribe onto your mailing list. And but before we go into the design here, I just want to make sure that I get rid of this background because it's very distracting. We want to make sure that this design is totally different. So let's have our background color here. So I'm going to click here on my section settings and add my background color like that. I'm going to save it. And then now I can go into my design. So I'm going to go into module settings and let's work with this design. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to just add my dummy text. So I'm just going to copy some text here from Lorem 2. Paste it over here. Then here's why you want to join. Okay, here's why you need to join. So now I can go in and start customizing this text by coming over here to design, click on this tool, then I can start adding my colors. So my font here, make this semi-bold. I'm going to choose my color by coming over here. So now you can see it really stands out. Center this. I'm going to do the same here. Choose my font, change this to Montserrat, center it, change the color like that. Right, so now that we have this in place, the next stage now is to really customize the width of this. So I'm going to come back over here to my content. Now, in fact, before I do that, I'm just going to save this because the width needs to be customized here in the row settings. So I'm going to click here on design, sizing, and then this is at 70%. I'm just going to bring this down a little bit to maybe about 54%. And then save. So that's much better. It's not taking too much of the width of the page. And then here we can go back in by clicking here on this module settings and then click on design. So this is where we want to work on the button. So our button color here is going to be this bright red. So first of all, I need to activate use custom styles for button. And then I'm going to choose my color. My text color is going to be, okay, let's go with this color here for our text. And then for our background color, we're going to use a color that we've used before. So I'm going to go with this bright red. Yeah, I really like that. And then the border width, we're going to get rid of that. Border radius, let's get rid of that. Right, so I think that looks great. So now I'm going to go ahead and save. And then back over here to the top, remember we spoke about this button. Let's change it. So I'm going to click here on this gear icon, click on design. And then we are going to go to button 1. So over here on button 1, we just need to get rid of this border radius. And then what we may want to do here is to just customize this in the padding. Let's add 1 VW here, both to the top and the bottom, left and right. Okay, so now we can see this button has gone slightly bigger. Let's go with 4 VW. All right, that looks great. So let's make sure that this looks okay on the tablet as well. Okay, so on the tablet, we're just going to increase this a little bit. And then on the phone, that looks okay. Great. So the final thing we may want to do here is to add a hover effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this second layer, so on this arrow pointing up, and let's add a color on hover. So, in fact, I was doing this in the wrong place. Right, so let's scroll back here and go to the background color. Okay, so I'm going to click here on this arrow that's pointing up, and we are going to change our color here on hover. So I'm going to go to our saved colors, and the color we're going to go with is a color here from our palette. So I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, so let's test this. Yeah, it's a slight change, but definitely it works okay. Right, so that's looking great. I'm going to save this. And there we go. That's our design. That's our email opt-in. So as you're taking a look at this design, you can see that we don't have a footer here and we also don't have a header. So the best thing to do here is to use a template, or you can build this from scratch. Now, I've also designed a template called Genesis that can be used as a base starting point for all your website designs. So this is what we're going to apply onto this website. Rather than, spend so much time designing the header and the footer, it's going to take a long time. But I also have other videos where I show you how to actually create these headers and the footers. But for now, I'm going to use my Genesis template. It's also available on sale. It's only $7. So I'd appreciate it if you go ahead and download it. The link to that is in the video description below. All right, so let's save this page. And now let's open this dashboard in a new tab. So we're going to come all the way down here to Divi Theme Builder. Next, we're going to come over here and we are going to click on Portability. Click on Import. And then this is where we're going to choose our files. So my file is on the desktop, and the Genesis template has a dark and light mode. So the one we're going to use here is, let's go with the light mode for this. Click on Open. And then I'm going to import the template. Okay, so my template now has been imported. I'm going to save changes. And then I'm going to view my home page. And there we go. So here we have our header area. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom here, we can see we have the footer. So pretty much this is looking great. But the thing is, this footer here does not resemble the colors that we have on our palette. And it's really cool now to use this template because I can actually go into this template and customize the footer colors. So let me show you how you do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here to my dashboard. Click on Theme Builder, and then I'm going to go into the global footer. So while I'm in the global footer here, the main thing I need to do is to go to my section settings, click on background, and then I'm going to just replace these colors with my color. There we go. That's my color. Add it here like that. There we go. So pretty much this is the color that I'll be using for my footer. Just make sure it's here as well. Okay, so that's looking much better now. Save that. And notice that when you save this color, it'll be applied to all the pages on your website. So that's the advantages of using these templates. All right, so now I'm going to save this, close out of here. Save changes. Now, if we take a look at this website on a new tab, you notice that we don't have a logo right here. So we're going to address that in a moment. So if I scroll all the way down here, you can see we have our beautiful footer in place. You can go in and change the links to whatever you want. And you can also change links to your social media icons here. So now let's add our logo. So I'm going to come back over here, click on Theme Options. And then all I have to do now is to click on Upload. And then I'm just going to use a logo that I have here on my site. So I'm going to go with this one here. Set as logo. Save changes. Great. And then over here, I'm just going to refresh this. So now we have a logo there. And if I scroll all the way down, you can see it's automatically been added onto my footer. So now all I have to do is to exit my website, go to the home page, and this is our page. So over here, if I scroll, look at what happens to the footer. It shrinks down a little bit, and that looks really nice. If I scroll back up, it just expands. And then over here, if you need to search for anything, you can just search. And this template also comes with a search results page. You can see there, that's the search results page. And if I scroll all the way down here to the bottom, we have our footer. Awesome.